was hitting the go live button. Is that me? You won't let me go live.
You are live.
Zach, are you starting this?
You are live.
Zach, are you starting this with go live? Good evening, Wealth Our Way Nation. What is going on? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform, Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I welcome you all to the Financial Power Hour. As you can see, we are getting it a little different tonight. I am stuck in Atlanta rush hour traffic. I am 7 minutes from the crib. So I am driving, being very reckless, driving and broadcasting live. But I will be in my studio within the next 7 minutes and will switch from the phone to the computer. But in the interim, I wanted to kick off tonight's show and thank each and every one of you who are here with me live as I stream across the Wealth Our Way Facebook page and the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page. Remember, if you have not taken the time to subscribe to the Wealth Our Way Network YouTube page, please do so today. Also, please share our social media. Tell a friend about the good work that we're doing here at Wealth Our Way, and let's get it popping. I also would like to give the wow salute to all the members of Wealth Our Way Nation who will watch this program in its pre-recorded state overnight, over the weekend, wherever they can get their financial literacy fix. And then, of course, a heartfelt how are you to the good folks on the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio of this very here program. Before I get into telling you guys who we have tonight and what we're going to be about, I'm going to have the squad kick the promo. Let's do it.
I grew up in West Philly, and times was tough. Single mom, 4 kids, there was never enough. What's a youngin' to do? Join a gang or a crew, or go to school, hit the books, and find a mentor or two? God was on my side, Mom's was not with the games, so I studied extra hard, created a lane. Read books by Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham, spent time on Wall Street, and now I'm the man. But there's still much to do, and plenty to say, so I present the Power Hour by Wealth Our Way. Enjoy the show.
Yo, that never gets old for me. I don't know about for you cats, but it never gets old. I am going to redo the video intro when I have an opportunity to get into a studio and do it a little more professionally. But I got to say, me and Zach put that together, and I'm very pleased with how it brings us out every week. Tonight, we have 2 dynamic speakers, 2 dynamic guests. We are talking tonight about mental health. And on the Financial Power Hour, we address the intersection of finances and everyday life. So tonight on episode 28, we're talking about mental health and one of the most tangible resources that goes into making sure that you have the proper lifestyle to surround yourself with, which will help keep you mentally healthy, which is money, finances, resources. But we're going to take a deep dive because I have 2 dynamic speakers tonight, and we're going to go a little bit deeper than we would normally go in a conversation about mental health. I'm going to share some stories. I am sure our speakers have some stories, because at the end of the day, my goal is to reach out to as many people who otherwise would succumb to the stigma behind seeking mental health help. I was actually shown a video today of David Mann. David and Tamala, I think they're the Meet the Browns of the Tyler Perry fame. And he was on Tamron Hall. Shout out to Tamron Hall. She is TU, Temple University. That's right. Tamron had him on the show, and he was talking about depression. My boy Brian, friend to Brian, he gets mad when I call him Brian. Brian Brew Rebel, showed me the clip because he really wanted me to understand that I'm not alone in my depression, that, this is a great topic to cover tonight. So I want to talk about our 2 guests. Our first guest is Ryan McMillan. Ryan runs his own telehealth practice out of King Oppression. Now, when I get him on here, I got to ask him, is he Big 10 or Big 12? Because he did his undergrad at Michigan State, but he did his master's work at TCU, Texas Christian. And, you know, I'm a football guy, and those football affiliations run deep. Both are good seasons. So I'm going to get on him a little bit about who he cheers for on the weekend. And then we have Simone Golden. Simone is the founder of Golden Touch LLC. It's also a mental health practice where her practice deals more with her private practice deals more with children. She has a K through 12 in the Delaware County school system that she deals with. We're going to have them both introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about themselves, and then we're going to go into the program. So without further ado, I welcome Ryan and Simone to the show.
Hello, hello.
How are you guys doing tonight?
I am well, and I want to give you props on that intro song.
You like that?
I like that. I like that.
not bad for an old dude. My son is in the back seat, and that is the reason I'm late. Being a father has gotten into the way of business yet again, which, you know, we all have to balance work and life. But I'm going to vent for a moment. My son has these free-form twists in his hair, and he begged me to get them done because he's too cool to go to school with them messed up. And he's been out of school for a few days. So I had to find the place. I go on Instagram. I went on Facebook. I plead out to my community. I said, someone help me find somewhere in Atlanta to get my son's hair done. Somebody showed me love and recommended a place. I booked a 12:30 appointment for a service I was told would take 90 minutes. Why were we in there for 4.5 hours? And, you know, nothing has made me angrier. And I'm glad we're doing the mental health talk tonight, because you two professionals can tell me to, as my son say, not be so OD. But everybody who I've talked to and vented since I've left there has said the exact same thing. Oh, that's how long that takes, dog. Like, it's okay. I am fire hot right now. And everybody's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'm like, I have something to do. It is a big deal. So
see, this is where we talk about culture, right? Because
yes.
culturally, the people that go to a salon, you know, maybe not so much a barbershop, but a salon environment, you kind of know an appointment time is approximate, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be in the chair for that 90 minutes consecutively. There may be some breaks. Somebody might have to go do this or that. You come back, you know. Culturally, we know you got to set aside a few extra hours when you're making a salon trip.
Yeah, I think that's good to know. I wouldn't have been able to put that together myself, so I'm in the same camp with him. If it said 90 minutes, I would have been expecting 90 minutes, maybe playing for 1:20. Before right. Maybe around 2-3 hours, I would get a little antsy. I would get just a little antsy.
And you know what really bothered me about it? Because I can understand everything that Simone just said. Yeah. But what really bothered me about it was on their website, they say they allow a 20-minute grace period for you to be late. You have to pay a $50 deposit when you book your time. If you're more than 20 minutes late, they keep your $50. Well, they made me 2 hours late. Did they give me $50? No. Mm-hmm. So there's my problem. But I'm going to get off my high horse. Simone, we are still, unfortunately, not in the 22nd century here and understand equality the way we should. We still let ladies go first. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
No problem. Thank you. So I am Simone Golden. I am the founder of Golden TLC, which is a mental health coaching practice in the Philadelphia area. And my focus really is working with communities of color. I have a background, I'm a licensed social worker. My background is working in the capacity of a therapist. I currently still am a clinical director for a private educational institution that runs out of Delaware County that you referenced. I still do some feet in the ground works type of social work, but my baby, Golden TLC, I started right before the pandemic hit. And I do see individual clients working with people really who are dealing with everyday life struggles. I feel like this conversation of money and mental health kind of falls into that, because money oftentimes affects so many aspects of our life, which is directly connected to our mental health and how we function from day to day. But also, I'm in the realm of partnering with educational institutions and community agencies to provide professional developments and trainings around mental health and inclusion. So I have some things coming up with Community College of Philadelphia, Westchester, just providing things, talking about, how mental health, the conversation around mental health specifically as it relates to Black and Brown communities. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dive in this conversation with you guys, and thank you for having me.
We are blessed to have you amongst us. I know this conversation is going to be high level. I'm so geeked and looking forward to the conversation. Brother Ryan, you heard me picking on the TCU MSU thing. Break it down for me, baby. Talk to me about who you are and how you get down.
I'm a Big Ten. I'm a Big Ten person. I was a student athlete. I ran track at Michigan State, and so I'm loyal to the Spartans.
There it is.
I'm Big Ten, and at my private practice, as you mentioned, in King of Prussia, I'm a telehealth therapist, and I mainly work with couples and Black men. And so we're working through different patterns that might emerge in a relationship and helping them to kind of get some communication tools and get to a place of vulnerability so that they can express themselves in a very different and more healthy way. I also do some contract work with Villanova and Princeton Theological Seminary, and I speak at different Fortune 500 companies talking about emotional intelligence or mental health in the workplace.
I love that. So we're going to just dive into it. I tell everybody who comes on the program, this is not a prefab question sent out to you guys. What do you want me to ask? This is a conversation. I believe our audience enjoys it more that way. I believe the guests love just delving into not only what topic, subject matter we chose, but some personal things that pop up as we get down. So I'm going to start it off. I suffer from both anxiety and severe depression, and I've been diagnosed with ADHD probably about 7 years ago, I want to say. I've taken Adderall, which I felt was helpful, and then I stopped. I was prescribed Wellbutrin, which I didn't find to be helpful, and then I stopped. I've been in and out of therapy since I was 6 years old, 7 years of age, and I firmly believe in therapy to the point where I am a founding board member of an organization inside of Philadelphia called Black Men Heal. I work with Black Men Heal.
I worked with Black Men. Taz and I went to school together.
You and Taz went to school together? Okay, those are my people. That's my people. So I turned the reins of what I was doing over to Doug McNeil, because when I founded Wealth Our Way, I couldn't give them my time commitment. And as a professional, I'm gonna go back to my vent about the hair place. As a professional, I don't feel as though you take on a job and then leave it without replacing yourself. So I replaced me with my church brother, Doug McNeil, and he's done so much better than I ever did for Black Men Heal. So I love what he's done, and I love the organization. We went on the Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne the God blessed us with his audience. It was an amazing time, an amazing thing. I have no problem. One of the reasons I decided to be a board member is I love transparency. I love telling people what's going on. And a buddy of mine, as I said earlier, sent a clip to me this morning of the Tamron Hall show with, I want to say the guy's name is David Mann and his wife, Tamala Mann. Mm-hmm. And David Mann was talking about depression. And I think my boy sent it to me because he's known me since I was 19. He's known me, 33 years. I get up every day with no zest for life. I get up every day with an obligatory mindset. I have clients to take care of. I have a mom and siblings to take care of. I have an ex-wife and a wife to take care of. I have children to take care of. And all I want to do is check these boxes and then go back to bed at the end of the day. And there's no fulfillment. There's no happiness. And although because of my work in the mental health space, not as a practitioner, but as a board member and as a financier, I hear those stories so many times.
but hearing David Mann say it, and so I'm gonna let you guys know, I'm a big dude. You see me, I'm gonna cry before the show is over. So let's just be clear. I'm gonna cry before the show is over. The over under is 3 different times. Like, so I'm gonna try and keep it under 3. When I saw this man break down on the show today and say basically what I'm constantly saying, which is I feel like I'm drowning. And this is a superstar. He's on TV. I'm no superstar, but I have a great life. I have a life that many people would envy. Money is never an issue. Friends are never an issue. I can go anywhere I want, do anything I want. And yet the darkness never goes away. So having you guys on here today for us to have a real conversation about it moves me deeply. And I'm sincerely appreciative that you would take the time out to be a guest on the Financial Power Hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable. I don't know if you've gotten to that place to be able to speak on it like that, or this has been a journey for you to get to that place to be able to speak like that. But just, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but just you being able to show that vulnerability, especially as a Black man, is vital, right? And I heard Ryan say that he works specifically with Black men as well. Within our community, you know, everybody might not be at the step where they're ready to seek therapy per se, because it's a scary step for a lot of people. And I always say therapy isn't for everyone.
Right.
That's not everyone's route. But a lot of times, just like you said today, you heard them speak on the Tamron Hall show. Someone hearing you speak like that, you know, you're this big man, right? I'm this big Black man. Even your, you know, the way that you present yourself and you seemingly, you know, without, if you hadn't said any of that, you know, my thought would be, oh, this guy is like happy-go-lucky, and, you know, he has a smile on his face. He has this great bubbly personality. But it just goes to show you don't know what you're experiencing. And depression doesn't look like, you know, it's not a uniform thing. But you being able to speak so vulnerably is sometimes that nugget that someone else needs, someone that's watching today needs, for them to be able to just maybe even recognize within themselves to say, okay, maybe I'll have a conversation with somebody else.
I appreciate that. You know, what's crazy about that is I had a lunch meeting today, and whereas I'm transparent and I don't care about sharing my business, I'll of course keep anonymity for other people. But I had a lunch meeting with a client, retired professional athlete, NFL guy, tough guy. And we were talking about this very topic, the mental health stuff. And he shared with me medicines that he was prescribed and what he's going through. And what was crazy as we talked about it, we just two brothers sitting in the car, because I had to drive him to his car because he parked further away from me. And we're sitting in the car, we're talking. And just what you said is what people would think. Retired NFL dude, millionaire, 2 6-foot+ brothers, smart guys, you know, big guys. No, like, you know, we're sitting here just trying to get through the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's one of the things I had to learn was that sadness doesn't equal depression and vice versa, although they may present similarly. So, like, I'm going to start there because you guys are professionals and I'm not. I'll ask Ryan to start, and then Simone, if you can bring your expertise to it. Can you talk to the differences between sadness and depression for our audience?
Yeah, I think when it comes to sadness, we're looking more so at like a feeling, and it's something that you might notice in your body. And so physically, when you feel sad, it kind of shows up. You can notice that maybe in some people it's in their chest. You can feel like that sadness in your throat. Maybe in your voice, you can hear it cracking a little bit, but like emotions show up in our body. And so whatever that emotion might be. So when it comes to sadness, it might be something that you feel in a moment and it can go away. When it comes to depression, it very much can feel like it's just sort of lingering. It's like a cloud. It hangs over top of us. It feels permanent when you have depression. And for a lot of people who are depressed, they experience it. At least the clients that I work with say that they experience a little bit more in the morning. And so like the motivation, so there's certain symptoms, right? Like maybe there's like low motivation, feeling like a burden, a sense of hopelessness. There's all these things that a person can have. They can get caught in different thinking traps. And so when it comes to depression itself, you can feel sad and be depressed. but you don't necessarily have to have depression or to feel sad. And so depression is more the diagnosis and something that a person might experience for certain, like longer than 2 weeks, 6 months, like it's something that's going on for quite a while. When it comes to depression, sadness doesn't necessarily have that same lifespan as depression would.
Understood. I love that. Simone, you want to piggyback on that?
Yeah, exactly what Ryan was saying. I think when we talk about depression and we talk about, and sometimes I think we use the term depression so lightly, right? Because we can feel depressed, right? That does not mean we are diagnosed with depression. And those are two different things that we have to differentiate, right? So when we're talking about someone who is diagnosed with depression, just like Ryan said, there's something called the DSM-5, and folks who are diagnosing, you have to meet for any type of mental health disorder that you're going to be diagnosed with. There's a book that outlines very specific things that you have to meet in order to, qualify for that diagnosis. So unless you see someone qualified to give you that diagnosis and you meet those qualifications, until that mark, it may be somewhere on that spectrum, right? Mental health is a spectrum. I say that all the time. Mental health is a spectrum. We may be on that spectrum of sadness. We may be on this end of I'm having a bad day. But it might go away after, I go get my favorite food. Or I might be on the other end of the spectrum where I am diagnosed with, major depressive disorder. I'm taking medication. I'm, in some kind of treatment. Maybe I've been hospitalized. Maybe I've tried to hurt myself. There's and everything in between. And I think language is so important. And I think our culture, not just the Black culture, the American culture, the culture of the world has gotten so, and I'm guilty myself. We all just use these terms, but we've gotten so kind of free with using terms like, oh, I feel so depressed. I got a dent in my car. I'm depressed, right? These are just words we use interchangeably.
Right.
With sad, with mad, and that's something I'm actually developing this training right now for kids where we are differentiating between the words we use to describe how we're feeling, because sometimes what shows up as anger when they say like I'm so mad, little kids, are you mad or are you embarrassed? Right? Are you mad or are you upset? Are you upset because are you sad? So really figuring out and honing in, and why it's so important to work with people, especially if you're someone who is experiencing like a significant mental health disorder, right? You're experiencing significant symptoms that are interfering with your ability to function day to day. It's so important that you see someone qualified, and that's not me. I'm not qualified to give someone a diagnosis of a major mental health disorder. I always say, if someone comes to me, I work with people kind of on the mid and lower end of the spectrum of dealing with mental health issues. People who are experiencing more significant mental health issues, I refer out. I'll refer them out to someone who has a clinical specialty in that area, maybe someone who prescribes medication, or who, like Ryan's marriage and family therapist. If someone comes to me and they have a specific need in a specific area regarding relationships or family issues, divorce, I'm going to refer them over there, because I can't do it all, right? There's I think more conversation needs to be had around, our language, number one, and also, the importance of providership and where we go. Because I think a lot of times people don't know all right, this is how I feel, now what?
You bring up two very big points that I want to harp on and throw them back at you guys. First, though, I'll say to the audience, we are blessed tonight to have Simone and Ryan here. This is, if of any show that I've done, this is a get your questions in the chat box show tonight. Let's take advantage of their generosity of being present with us and address anything ask any questions, get some thoughts out. This is that time to do it. We got the Christmas and holiday season coming up. Always brings a lot of extra pressure, can drive us into our emotions in a deeper way. I'm here to help. And I brought people who I brought backup. I got cats who can really help. So 2 things I want to talk about, and you guys can both jump on these topics. But first of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the team is tight over here at Wealth Our Way. I want to give a big shout out to Zach and to Renee for bringing you guys on the show, for producing the show to the extent that they do. I couldn't do anything without them on this show. That they make all of it pop off. We got Ben behind the scenes tonight working, learning the show. I just love that they take so much off my plate and that they brought you guys to this audience. So I want to shout the team out. And then what I wanted to say was, once again, through my mental health travail, something you just said, Simone, about specialties. So Tasneem gets sick of me because that's my go-to. I call her for everything for me. And I call her anybody. I'm always trying to help people. And then by me trying to help people, I'm making her help. I'm like, Taz, this guy is ruined. You got to tell me what to do for him. And she's like, boy, if you don't stop calling me with this. But when I moved to Atlanta back in 2008, the first time, she went on Psychology Today and got me several therapists to talk to because she knew how badly I needed it. And I saw a guy, he wasn't a fit for me. So this is my 2 questions or 2 statements. One is about specialists, about who does what. I want us to take a deeper dive and give Ryan a chance to talk on that. The second one, though, this is a problem that I struggle with. So I appreciate you commending me on being open to therapy, because I am very much, but I am probably a bad patient because I never give things enough time to set in. The mathematician in me wants the exact answer within 30 seconds of us meeting. I want the meds that work tonight. Mm-hmm. And this is more art than science over here. So I've learned that the hard way. I stopped taking my Wellbutrin, and they told me it might take 30 days before it works, and it may never work for you. We may have to come back and give you a different drug to pop this part of your brain. And once they said that to me, it made me lose faith in the person. What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean this may not work? And as much as I am seeking help, I'm seeking help for this immediate answer. And this is not an immediate answer game. And so can you talk to the audience about the process of chasing down the right mix of talk therapy, medicine, group therapy, and then also the difference that a specialist can make in a particular area? I'll start with Ryan, and then we'll bring Simone back on deck.
Yeah. So the first thing is, when you're looking for a therapist, you're interviewing the therapist. And so usually there's this short, call that I have with a person just to see if they're the right fit. And I want to see if this is a person that's within my wheelhouse, because if they aren't, at the moment, I would refer them to someone else. Because I only work with people, it's pretty specialized. And so you want to interview the therapist as much as they are sort of sorting things out with you. You want to see, is this the kind of person? Have your questions ready, right? Like, have some questions prepared that can give you a feel, because some therapists are more direct, where they're leading, they're giving you guidance or advice, if you will. And other therapists are more exploratory. You want to see if this is the right fit for you, and not to give up if you don't find the right person right away, right? Like if that's not the person, then you move on and see, like, well, who's, and you mentioned some sites that you can go to, like Psychology Today, and Good Therapy is another site that you can use that can help you in your search. But when it comes to actually being in sessions, there's a lot of people that I meet with that are also very like, I want to fix, I want it today. They're solution oriented. And so we have like short-term goals. What's a realistic short-term goal right now that we can hit within the next week or the next 2 weeks? What's a realistic short-term goal? Because I think it's helpful if we can at least see progress. And when people can see the steps that they're taking forward, I can do this now. I can wake up in the morning and I feel more motivated. I can, if that much progress you're able to feel and see, it's like losing 2 pounds, right? If you try and lose weight, you're not going to lose 30 right away, right? But you might lose 2, and that can be encouraging. And so when we set those small goals, those short-term goals, it helps us to get to that big place that you were talking about. But I'm a 1% person, 1% every day. If we can do that 1%, then we can get to that 30-some% at the end of the year. and be at a place where we feel much better. And so I'm always checking in with my clients specifically to see like, where are we right now, getting that feedback and eliciting that from, so they feel like we're meeting those short-term goals on the way to that bigger picture.
I love that. Simone?
Yeah, playing off of that, I think exactly what Ryan said. And before you even start your search for help, I think it's important for people to sit with themselves for a minute and make a list of what it is you're looking for. What do you want in a therapist? What don't you want? Do you want someone who shares similar culture? Do I want somebody that looks like me? Does that matter? Do I have a preference of gender? Do I have a preference of someone who specializes in a certain area or not? Do I want telehealth? Do I want in person? Kind of going through those things and having a conversation with yourself before, because when you get in that consultation, like Ryan said, we have a quick little 15-minute conversation with someone where they get to interview us, but we also get to interview them to see, like, is this the right fit? And if I, as someone seeking help, don't know what it is generally, you don't have to know it specifically, but if I generally don't know what I'm looking for, that's going to make it a little harder and may make it more likely that it's not a good fit once you start to see that person. So as much as you can, I would recommend that people take some time to really sit down. And if you have someone close to you that you have opened up to, or that knows what you are experiencing, have that conversation with that safe person, right? And maybe that person can give you some insight to say, hey, I've been on the other side of a conversation with you. What do you think about someone like this? This might benefit you. Or I know you don't like talking to people that are like this, right? And a good, helping professional will be honest with you. If someone came in, Tank, if you came in and told me, like, I need a solution today, this is how I'm feeling, fix me before I leave this office, I'm going to say, Tank, that's not going to happen today, right? There has to be trust that's built, and trust comes with honesty. And, yes, part of the honesty and transparency of this type of work, and why I love culturally working within the space of my culture, is because I can talk like this to people that I work with, right? Yeah. And there's a commonality, even if we are not exactly the same, there's a commonality of language that we share that's not even spoken, right? That helps sometimes to facilitate things. And me being able to say to someone, look, you're coming in here with things that have taken time, more than 50 minutes to get here. So I need to know if you can commit to me, right? That we can at least, like Ryan said, set a short-term goal of give me 4 sessions. Let's see what we can do in those 4 sessions. Can you commit to that? Right? If you're coming in and telling me you can't commit to, more than this 1 session without coming out and something's fixed, then I might say, we might not be the right fit.
I love that.
My practice is a mental health coaching practice. So the coaching model as well, I'm a certified coach. So within coaching, we are giving homework. We are, it's this combination of skills. And it's not, while we are, setting and reaching short and long-term goals, that it's not going to be an overnight fix. The same way an athlete has a coach and you have to condition, right? You have to condition. Ryan, you ran track. Tank, you look like you played some kind of sport. So, you're conditioned over time. You don't become, the star player by just going into one practice and you come out doing everything you got to do. You have to put in the work. And it's the same thing. And that's the conversation we have all the time about, talking about our mental health the same way we do our physical health, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Physically, we know we have to condition ourselves to get to where we want to be. It's the same thing with our mental health.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Ryan, were you going to add something, I think?
No, I think that was good. Yeah. Okay,
I want to address my man Bruce's question. Before I do that, I bring the question up for you guys. I want to say normally when I bring clients on for financial services, I always tell clients you want to look for a professional that brings the 2 C's to the table. The first C is competence. Do they know what the hell they're doing? Can they help you with what you're trying to accomplish? The second C is caring. Do they care? When I work primarily with professional athletes, I always found that professional athletes came to me because the previous person who was helping them only had 1 C. It was mom, it was the AAU coach, it was somebody they trusted, they knew loved them, and they knew they had the C. But this is a person who raised them on food stamps and didn't know anything about an $82 million contract. They didn't have the competency. Or they went to Goldman Sachs and they had a person who was competent in a mug, but they couldn't care if this person ever came back to their office or not. In me, they were able to get the best of both worlds. He cares and he's very competent. I think that's what we look for when we walk into a therapist's office. I over embellished how quickly I would want a result. But the reality is that what I want to know before I walk out is, do you care and can you help me? And if you can show me something that I can leave with a homework assignment that will prove that competency. I don't expect it to teach me everything. My son's a wide receiver and a defensive end in high school football. And on the defensive end side, he's a very thin kid. He's going up against tackles who are twice his size. His coaches aren't telling him everything, in my opinion. I played football. I got clients who are pro football players at his position. So I yelled at him at the last game. I said, work half the man, son. And people looked at me like I had 2 heads because they didn't understand what I was telling them. I said, hey, look, that guy is too big for you to run into his chest and deal with him. Right. Pick his outside number or his inside number and just work that part of him. That little tip, the very next play, he almost got a sack. So is he great at it now? Hell no. But he had something he could walk away with and say, oh, this is a tip. And I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to say to me, Tank, you're not getting enough sleep. How about you leave your phone in the other room and don't drink anything 2 hours before bed? That might help. Like something that's going to push us in the right direction, I think. So with that being said, I want to go to Bruce's question. I think it's wonderful because we deal with this as Black men. What do you tell Black men about the opening up process? Since we've been told showing emotions is weak for the majority of our lives, how do you overcome that? Why don't you take that first, Ryan, and then we'll throw it back to Simone.
Well, the first thing is I've been redefining strength in my practice that, instead of looking at vulnerability as a weakness, I've been seeing it more as a strength, just because of the benefits that I've gotten from it personally. So one thing is culturally, we're having conversations like this one where we can redefine strength and not see it so much as weakness. But the second thing that I would share to a person is, if it's weak to do something that's helpful for you, if it's weak to do something that can set you free, if it's weak to do something that can get you to a place of breakthrough, then I've been encouraging people to lean into weakness, lean into that weakness a little bit so that you can absorb the benefits from it so that you can be the best version of yourself. But the last thing is, aside from like reframing language that I use with people around it being a weakness, and kind of seeing it more as a strength, is that when it comes to opening up, is I begin to kind of share some of my own, like in my practice, I share sometimes with other men, I share some of my own story and just how it's been a gift to me to open up, because I get it. I can relate to it. I'm a man, Black man too. And I didn't see the point. If it wasn't going to change it, if it wasn't going to make me better by opening up, and I wasn't going to do it. Like, what's the point? What's the point in this cry if after I'm done, I just have a headache too? Right. And so, I wasn't going to do it. And I think everything grew me that way. Like, I played football, like you mentioned, and the whole culture is just suck it up. And I think I got to a point where I just had so many things that were sitting over on the side that I kind of like piled up that I had to suck up and not deal with. Till at some point it was like, an emergency situation. It's like she mentioned about, like Simone mentioned about physical health. I realized that physically, when I was an athlete, I kept playing through all these injuries. I just wanted to be on the field. I'm a smaller guy. And so I didn't want any knock against. I wanted a Division I scholarship. So I just wanted to be on the field. Whatever it took, I played through all kinds of playing, whatever it was. I didn't go to the training room. I didn't ice like I should. I was just like, I need to be out there. And I realized that I learned how to live with pain. And I just was, my mindset was, it doesn't hurt that bad. I'm good. I'm just going to be out there. And I think that's how I dealt with things emotionally too. It's like, this was a pain that I learned to live with. And so what I encourage people around is that you don't have to live with pain, small or great. Even if you have a great threshold, I used to wear that as a badge of honor when people say you have like a pain threshold that is so like great. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I was so proud of it until I was just overwhelmed and I couldn't handle it anymore.
Right.
So you don't have to wait till you get to a breaking point to get help. And so you don't have to wait until that moment where you feel way too overwhelmed or past the point of exhaustion. The thing about therapy is it's confidential. And so nobody knows what you're doing. It's just between me and you.
I love that. Simone?
Yeah, I love that. Lean into the vulnerability, Ryan. I might steal that when I talk to people. But I really think, to answer Bruce's question about men and specifically Black men, opening up, your responsibility in this initial process of seeking help is to just make that first appointment and show up. In my opinion, like that's the hard part, right? After that, I feel it's my responsibility as the practitioner to build the rapport enough. And if we are the right fit, I pride myself on, that other C that you're talking about, that caring part, the rapport that I build and the energy that I put into, building rapport with people that I work with. It comes from a genuine place, especially when I'm working with folks that look like me, because in you, I see my dad, in you, I see my brother, I see my sister, my mother, and there's, a level of empathy that I connect with. So when I'm talking to you, my hope is that, the genuineness is conveyed. And when that type of interaction happens, that guard that folks have slowly starts to come down, because it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm in this clinical setting talking to a therapist that is just writing notes down. It feels like I'm talking to a familiar person. Right. And, slowly with time or quicker, that allows you to start to feel safe enough to open up. And it's my responsibility to create that safe space. So, Brew, I would say, if you are in a space where you are thinking about, or someone is thinking about getting help and talking to somebody, just getting to that first step of showing up and getting in the office or getting on that Zoom, and then allow, that's the hardest step to take. Allow, the helping professional on the other end of the conversation to do what they do.
I love that. And Brew, we appreciate the question. What I want to do, because time is flying with you genius, love, big heart, big minded people. We got the last 15 minutes of the show. I want to tie it back into the dough, because we love the dough over here at Wealth Our Way. And one of the things that the joke goes, I remember comedians say, money don't make you happy, but I feel a lot better showing up to my problems in my Bentley. Money can make things a lot more palatable. But like I touched on earlier on this show, I'm not, trying to get robbed or anything, but I do well financially. And I'm here to tell people it's not the answer all the time. Like, it's just not. I have, I have the financial means to address the problems that arise in my life, but it still leaves me feeling empty a lot and just this void that money often can't fill. But when we come into this time of year, so much pressure is on us. We have the holidays. We have, taxes have been extended. The tax extension deadline is October 15th. People got to pay their taxes. We also have, for small business owners, it's the fourth quarter. You're trying to close. Salespeople are trying to close. You're seeing if you made goals at the beginning of the year. Now is the scorecard time. This is a very trying time for people. How often do you, in your practices, and we'll start with Simone this time, how often do you in your practices find, and I'm waiting, because Ryan, you answered the last two first. I'm going to wait to get to you, but I want to hear about the marriages because I know money messes up marriages a lot. But in your practices in general, how often do people present with the external dark cloud of finances that leads to the internal emotional wreckage? Simone.
So for me, it is 100% of the time, because in my coaching model, the first thing that I do with folks in their first session is this wheel of life exercise, right? So a picture a wheel or a big pie, and there's a bunch of different sections on the pie, and in each section is an area of your life, you know, marriage, finances, school, physical health, but you know, all these different areas. So when we touch on finances, you know, there are people who are doing well, but when we dive into it and you give it a rating, you know, from a scale of 1 to 10, what are your feelings in relation to finances? And, you know, obviously there's that cyclical relationship with finances in, you know, relationships, but also when you think about folks who are dealing with things like depression, things like anxiety. I'm someone who suffers from anxiety myself. And as we know, a go-to coping skill is often to give ourselves things to make ourselves feel better in that moment, a momentary fix, right? A momentary fix might be buying myself a cheesesteak. It might be
guilty as charged.
Right. It might be buying myself this little bag I saw. You know, it might be going to get my nails done and my eyebrows and a wax. I'm getting more braids done, right? And those things may or may not fit into my finances at this moment. But what they do is make me feel better in this moment. So there's this connection that lies in with, you know, our spectrum of mental health. It doesn't have to be that you have a serious mental health diagnosis. It could just be that you are on that mental health scale of your own on a lower end that day. You had a bad day, and my way of coping involves me spending money that I don't need to be spending. And that then develops into a pattern, because then I don't have the money to pay my bills. And now I'm feeling, you know, so it's this cycle that, you know, becomes a pattern of behavior of coping skills that is unhealthy.
I love that.
Guilty as charged, by the way.
That where none of us are immune to it. Like that.
Right.
Knowledge doesn't, you know, they say knowing is half the problem. We're all looking for that elusive other half of the problem.
Right.
Ryan, you want to jump on that? Because I know marriages, I think more than the young lady or the man up the street catching our eye, it's that bread that breaks up more homes than not. So can we talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. I think for some people, the money can be a place where they find their identity. And so if you see yourself as a provider and maybe you can't provide, or you want to be a contributor in some ways. And so one's ability to provide and or contribute can really be a source of shame in a relationship if you cannot. And then there's some people, because they may be bringing the money, there are other parts of the relationship where they are not as strong, because they're spending more time at work and they don't have that balance. And it's hard to hear that there's some other things that they can do emotionally. It's like, well, I already gave you the money. You should be good. Right. And so then there's that emotional part that they're asking for. And then it's like, well, we don't feel like we're good enough. You know, like nothing I do ever, you know, satisfies you or what have you. And so when money is a big part of our identity, it can be hard in a relationship. What I would add to that is along the same lines of what Simone mentioned about like how you cope, how that can then become the stressor, is that when you do that in the context of a relationship, now you're pulling from funds that somebody else is expecting to be there, right? And so when you do that, many people in relationships, when I'm working with them, we're talking about like what's the amount of money that you need to have a conversation about before you spend it, right? And so if that's $100 for some people, it's $500, whatever it might be for others, there's a certain amount of money, like in having those conversations, like we're working through having those conversations, because there's different messages even that we've had growing up about money. And so I work with a lot of couples where they're like, you know, growing up, I didn't have anything. And so there's a lot of safety and security that comes with money. So if somebody goes off and it's like splurging, you're putting my safety at risk now. Right. And so it becomes this big concern around security in the relationship. So it's a lot of layers in a relationship when it comes to money and money management.
I'm going to ask a question, but first I want to shout out that Wealth Our Way has partnered with the Chrysalis Initiative.org to fight breast cancer. My mom is a breast cancer survivor, and it's near and dear to my heart. So I want you guys to, if you know, $1, $1,000, $4 million, whatever you got. Now, but you know, if you get a chance to take a look at the chrysalisinitiative.org website and give if you can. If you can't give, share the information to somebody who maybe can do so. But visit and check the site out, because we have to get on this disease. It's affecting the women that we love, and it also affects men. So, you know, let's deal with breast cancer and try and nip it in the bud. No pun intended. I always say something offline when I'm not even thinking about it, but you know, I digress. I'm slippery slope. Let's move back to the situation. So you said something about security. I love that. I used to go in people's houses as a financial professional, especially when I was doing life insurance, and I would do this exercise. And the answers ran right down gender lines, where I would say, okay, you're dead. I'd point to the husband. You're dead. Mrs. Customer, you got $2 million from this life insurance policy. What are we doing? And watch her answer and watch the husband lose it. And I'm like, dude, you're dead. Shut up. Like, you know, we'd have fun with it. But arguably almost to like the percentages were probably 90-10. It was a great experiment. Men wanted risk. Men wanted their wife to take this money, invest it in something, and pay expenses off the proceeds of the investment. That's what men knew were smart, long-term would work. That's what they wanted to happen. Women wanted to take that money and pay off every debt that they had. I'm gonna pay the mortgage off, I'm gonna pay the car off, I'm gonna do this, and then what's left, I'll worry about that, because they wanted safety and security and certainty. And that is something that is hardwired into us to when we were walking on all fours. You know, men feel like even in death, I got this plan, we'll make it work. And women will feel like, hey, you know what? I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring if we have a bird in the hand. And I can only imagine when you have different financial ideologies under a roof, and then you have a more dominant personality, that dominant personality gets their ideology across. But what I've seen, and I'm not a therapist, I've just seen it as the money person. My best friend Trey has a saying that you cannot dominate. I'm going to mess it up, but something about you can't dominate the human spirit, the human will. So the weaker person, they may not vocalize what they want to do, but they're doing it. You know, you're not going to keep them down for that long. So if you tell them don't spend, but they think spending is the right thing to do, they're spending. If you tell them, hey, we need all the money out in the open, we're going to spend this, we're going to do this, but they think saving is the way to go, they're stashing. Like, you know, you can't dominate the human will. They're going to do what they think is right. So let's spend 5 minutes just kind of expanding on that, if we shall, you know, just kind of to close out with how that can get in the way of a healthy relationship when our mental identity with money dictates who we're going to be. So, you know, I'm going to throw it back to Simone.
Yeah, I mean, as a single, never married person, that
how did that happen?
we, you know, there's this idea of premarital counseling, right? And part of what I would assume some of the discussion or suggestions of things to get on the same page about, not that you're going to be on the same page necessarily, but at least to have the conversation to know where this other person exists when it comes to, you know, what is their ideology, you know, around money and finances. You know, am I someone who is financially responsible and my partner, you know, has a 350 credit score? You know, and what does this mean as we're coming into this union? Does that mean I'm getting, you know, into something that I'm not sure about? So those, obviously, money, what do they say? Money, babies, and buying houses are like the three biggest stressors in a relationship. And that, I think, if you do not have a very serious conversation coming into before you say I do, and legally combine things with a person, sign your name to a paper for a house or a car, or, even matrimony.
Yeah.
That can be something that, breaks you, along the way, because there's the conversation of money will come up in your relationship in some form or fashion,
No
even
doubt.
with folks who probably, especially the more money you have, the more it probably comes up as a conversation. If everybody's broke, then it's like, it's probably not as big of a deal. But when you have money to manipulate and there's decisions to be made, not knowing where a person stands, or coming into a conversation and being shocked by your partner's answer, shouldn't be where you stand.
Right.
If I were to be in that situation where you said, okay, husband, you're dead, and you're asking me something related to finances, even if that particular situation, I might say, I'll invest, or I'll pay off debt, I should have some sort of inkling how my partner might answer that question.
That's right.
That was what it brought out more often than not, was how uncommunicative they had been on the process. That was the premise of the exercise at the end of the day. It wasn't to solidify more who was right or who was wrong. It's y'all haven't even thought about this. Let's have a conversation about that. Ryan, we got 3 minutes. I want you to use 2 of it answering that question, taking us to the end.
Yeah. So I used to do a presentation called "We Need to Talk," and when you hear just that language, "we need to talk," a lot of people would respond and say, like, "I'm in trouble. Something's about to happen." There's anxiety going into that conversation, and I find when it comes to money, many of the couples that I work with, it's almost like that "we need to talk" conversation, where it's like anxiety. They don't really want to talk about it, so they avoid it for a good deal of it, and it's not a positive conversation. It feels very like negative to a lot of couples. It's like they're talking about maybe something that's going wrong. And so, as you just highlighted around communication, I think just changing the way you talk about money can be more helpful to a relationship, so people aren't avoiding it, particularly if you already have a pattern in a relationship where one person already feels like they're getting in trouble, or they're the problem, or they're not good enough. Then that will just be another thing where they're just avoiding it for that reason. It's like, I don't need another thing where I'm hearing I'm not enough. Or I don't need another thing where I hear I'm unappreciated, whatever it might be. It just adds to it. So money issues are often communication issues.
I love that. Hey, I want to ask both of you guys as we close out. First, I want to thank you. I want to apologize for my tardy. Apologize to my audience as well. But I love how you guys handled it, and thank you both. But I want to ask, because I know enough about your business, to ask: are you accepting new clients?
I am. I am currently accepting new clients.
Simone?
I am as well. Yeah, I'm accepting individual clients, but also, partnering with folks to do, whether it's small groups, or, professional developments or trainings for agencies or institutions as well.
Perfect. And Lou Laura asked, are you a psychologist? I don't know who she's asking that of. I am not a psychologist. And
I am not a psychologist.
I am not a psychologist, but I prefer the person to a psychologist. But I
think we also need to know, we talked about this a little earlier in the show, what you need, because sometimes you think you need a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a licensed talk therapist or a licensed social worker, and you don't really know. It's that way in finances too. I tell people they don't know the difference between a financial planner, advisor, consultant, life insurance agent. It's a lot of jargon that we need to educate ourselves on. But I want you guys to stick around in the green room after we close the show out, so I can talk to you guys, and thank you again. To the audience, I love you cats. We'll be back tomorrow with 15 minutes of finance at 12:30 Eastern on both the Wealth Our Way page and the YouTube Wealth Our Way Network page. With that being said, take us out, good people.